Now, the militant group Hamas has rejected the latest ceasefire proposal from Israel, saying it will no longer accept interim deals. Hamas says it will only accept a deal that would lead to the end of the war. Israel has proposed a 45-day truce that includes the release of more hostages. 1 month ago today, Israel abandoned the original ceasefire deal and resumed strikes on Gaza, stating it wanted to rework the terms to free more hostages.
The aftermath of an Israeli airstrike in Jabalia. According to local officials, at least 40 people were killed by strikes across the territory on Thursday.
There are still a number of missing people under the destruction caused by this bombing. A number of injured and martyrs were transferred to the Baptist hospital, and the crews are still working to find more people in the targeted area.
This family is mourning the death of their daughter. She was killed after a classroom functioning as a shelter for displaced people was hit. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry reports more than 1,600 Palestinians have been killed over the past month since Israel resumed fighting, ending a 2-month truce. On Thursday, Hamas rejected Israel's latest proposal for a temporary ceasefire. The Palestinian militant group says it will only accept a deal that will end the war.
Our movement is ready to immediately negotiate a deal to swap all hostages with an agreed number of Palestinian jailed by Israel. To end completely the war against our people and to fully withdraw from Gaza Strip and to start the reconstruction in Gaza.
Israel is calling for the release of 10 hostages in return for a 45-day truce. In that time, it says both sides would negotiate a permanent ceasefire. The Israeli plan also calls for Hamas to disarm, demands the militant group rejects. As the negotiations have come to an impasse, the fighting in Gaza continues, and the suffering for the civilian population goes on.
And I'm now joined by DW correspondent Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem for more. Tanya, remind us what was in the proposal and why did Hamas reject it?
Well, so what we know from the proposal, obviously, reportedly, is that at least 10 of the living hostages that are being held in Gaza, we understand that 59 hostages are being held in Gaza and 24 of them are believed to be alive. So this deal would have seen most likely 10 living hostages being released for at least a 45-day ceasefire. Some other sources say it a 4 to 6 week ceasefire. And in exchange for over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners held in Israel, as well as the opening of the crossings to let in aid and supplies into Gaza. Now, what we've been hearing from the Hamas official, Khalil al-Hayya, he's also the negotiator for Hamas outside of Gaza. He basically said that they're not interested in these kind of partial deals, that they would propose to release all the hostages, but for the end of the war. This is a stance that Hamas has always said that they want to see. And he also accused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to have changed and basically stopped the deal that they had negotiated back in January, when then after they had released hostages and prisoners were released at that time. Then on the 18th of March, Israel then started a new offensive and not going into the second phase of the deal that had been agreed upon.
Are we approaching a sort of dead end, or are there still hopes of reaching some sort of a deal after that last ceasefire that you were just talking about collapsed? What are your sources telling you?
Well, basically, I mean, what we are hearing now from Hamas is a bit of a typical yes, but response from Hamas. So there's not the sense that this is the end of the negotiations. We still have to hear from the mediators, Egypt and Qatar. We also have to hear from Israel. And there's a sense that, and we heard it in this statement as well from Hamas, that they want to continue negotiations. Now, Hamas is in a way also reading the room in Israel. There have been a lot of people coming out also from the armed forces in recent weeks with open letters to the government, calling on the government to prioritize hostages, the release of all the hostages for, and not, even if it doesn't, it means they cannot continue the war for the time being, and then to deal with Hamas later. But of course, this could be used also now by the Israeli government to say, okay, Hamas doesn't want this deal. They could hit Gaza even harder. And of course, the situation, we all know, we saw it in the report right now, is extremely dire for the civilian population who hasn't seen any supplies coming into Gaza since the beginning of March.
All right, that's our Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem. Thank you, Tanya.